G'day guys, and welcome to another video on Glenn's Supra. In this video we're going to show you how we went about converting the 3-coil wasted spark setup to a coil unplug wasted spark setup for the 1JZ VVTi running the factory ECU. In a previous video we went about upgrading the fuel pump. If you haven't seen that, there'll be a link in the description. We also, if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen anything about this Supra, we'll also include a link to the video of the conversion process that we went through with it. After having the car up and running for a couple of weeks, Glenn started to notice a little bit of a misfire under high load boost driving. As we've already replaced the fuel pump, we knew that it wasn't going to be a fuel pump problem. So we decided to start diagnosing the ignition system. Now, to start with, we decided we'll just start gapping the plugs down from 0.8 millimeters to 0.65 millimeters. And in doing so, we noticed that it made a bit of an improvement. So we pretty much put it down to it that yes, there is a problem with the ignition system. We know it wasn't spark plugs because we did put some of those in when we finished the conversion as just a part of a service for the engine before we did any driving or anything like that. So we went with the 370Z coils, which are I think in V37 Genesis or something in the States. They're pretty much identical to the VR38 R35 GR coil pack, which if you don't already know are pretty capable in handling high power, high load situations. I mean, R35 see what, 1,000, 1,500 horsepower, still use the standard coils. So that's why we went with the 370Z one. They're pretty much the same, just slightly different mounting. And yeah, they're just pretty universal application, work really well. One drawback that we obviously come across is the fact that because we've gone this way, away from the standard igniter, we're going to lose tacho in this application because the JZX100 ECU doesn't output the tacho signal, whereas the igniter actually outputs that tacho signal. In Glenn's case, we're not too worried about the tacho at this point in time because he's going to go for an aftermarket ECU, which will solve that problem. But there are quite a number of methods of obtaining a tacho signal out there, whether it's an autometer tach adapter or a couple of other avenues that we've found can generate a tacho signal based on a couple of sensors and things like that. So it is doable, but we're not worried about it at this point in time. But yeah, so with all that being said, let's get stuck into it. And there we have it. Glenn's finished constructing his new core pack harness to suit the 370Z core packs. It's made out of Tefzel military-ish grade wiring. We've got all new connectors, all crimps, no solders. nice Deutsch connector to connect it into the harness to future-proof it for when he makes a new engine loom to suit an aftermarket ECU when he goes that route. But yeah, it's a pretty generic loom. Can suit a lot of different engines, but this one is for his 1J VVTi. So we've got a little circuit here that Glenn sort of prototyped up for testing purposes. Basically, because he's running the factory JZX 100 ECU, there's a pin on the ECU called IGF, which is, I think, refers to ignition feedback. Basically what it's doing is telling the factory ECU that a spark event has occurred. If it doesn't get that signal, it actually shuts down the injector outputs and the car shuts off or doesn't run from the get-go. So what we've got here is a little circuit that should hopefully imitate the IGF circuit that the ECU requires, or the IGF signal, and hopefully that should get it to work. So Glenn will probably chuck it in the car in a sec and see that it works. Right. So this circuit that we built didn't work, but using the standard igniter, we were able to come up with a solution that worked quite well. So basically all we did is on the coil outputs that would normally go to the standard coil packs, we've put in 100 ohm half watt resistors, and we fed that into the IGF wire. In doing that, we found that with an oscilloscope, it was generating the exact same signal that the standard igniter would send back on the IGF wire as if it was standard. So yeah, we tested our theory by checking that the injector output was still there, and it was. So we plugged it all in, we rigged it all up, and fired it up, and it ran. So Glenn's been driving it for a couple of days now, and it's actually, we've noticed it seems to have higher power. Like it could be a placebo effect, but it works quite well. It sounds crisper, it seems to drive smoother, it doesn't have a little bit of a hiccup on idle like it used to, and it definitely doesn't have the misfire under load that it did. And there it is, everyone. That's our 6 coil unplug upgrade using the standard 1JZ VVTi ECU. Now, obviously we can't say for sure, but this should also work on 2JZ VVTis and anything else that runs that 3 coil application. But we're still in the testing phase with this igniter output, but so far it's looking good. If you do decide to go this way, do so at your own risk. But yeah, until Glenn goes with an aftermarket ECU application, this thing's it works quite well. So yeah, we'll see you in the next one.